Today, we're going to unpack a pretty powerful new executive order, one that could really change how American foreign policy gets made. It's called One Voice for America's Foreign Relations. And the big idea is to make sure that everyone, from the top ambassadors all the way down to local staff, is speaking with one unified message. But, what does that actually look like in the real world? Let's dive in and find out.
So here are the basics. On February 12, 2025, this order was signed, and its official goal is to streamline U.S. foreign policy. The idea is to take the super complex, often messy world of international diplomacy and funnel it all through one clear channel, coming straight from the top. We're going to dig right into the text to see exactly how they plan on pulling that off.
The entire order really hinges on this one concept, one voice. But what does that actually mean for the thousands of diplomats and civil servants out there on the ground? How does a simple phrase on a piece of paper change how they do their job every single day? That's really the big question we've got to answer.
Okay, so to really get what's going on here, we have to start where the order itself starts, and that's with the U.S. Constitution. The document is super clear about where it thinks the power to create a one-voice policy comes from.
And here it is. The order grounds its authority right in Article 2 of the Constitution. This is the part that gives the president all the executive power, which includes running the nation's foreign policy. So the very first thing this order does is say, hey, let's remember the fundamental principle here. The president is in charge.
Now you got to pay attention to the words they use here. It's really deliberate. The Secretary of State is called the principal steward, and the workforce, they're called patriots. This isn't just fluffy bureaucratic language. It's setting a crystal clear expectation of loyalty and, well, effective implementation. And that becomes absolutely crucial in the next section.
And, those expectations lead us right to the core mandate of this order. This is where all that theory about presidential power becomes a very practical, very new standard of performance for literally everyone in foreign policy. Okay, if there is one sentence you need to remember from this whole thing, it's this one. It states that a failure to faithfully implement the president's policy is grounds for separation. Let's be clear about what separation means. It means you could lose your job. Your job is now explicitly tied to your alignment with the administration's foreign policy. And that is a huge shift.
And you might be thinking, okay, who does this really apply to? Well, the answer is pretty much everyone. The order is very specific about its wide reach. It covers the foreign service, the civil service, and even locally employed staff working in embassies all over the world. Basically, if you have a hand in implementing U.S. foreign policy, you're now under this brand new standard. So we have this new, very strict policy. But a policy is only as strong as its enforcement, right? So the big question is, who holds the power to make these calls? Well, the order gives us a very clear answer.
Section 4 lays out a really straightforward process. It all starts with the Secretary of State, who identifies a potential issue. From there, the Secretary decides what action to take, and they can either do it themselves directly, or if it's a presidential appointee, they can refer it up to the president.
And here's the part that makes that whole process so incredibly powerful. The order states that the decision to take action is at the Secretary's sole and exclusive discretion. I mean, just listen to those three words, sole and exclusive. That is a massive amount of authority concentrated right in that one office.
But this order doesn't just stop with individual discipline. No way. It actually uses that new standard as a launchpad for a much, much broader overhaul of the entire foreign service system. Section 5 calls for a complete top-to-bottom reform, and I mean it's touching almost every single part of the system. We're talking about how people are recruited, how their performance is reviewed, retention policies, training programs. They're even calling for a complete rewrite of the Foreign Affairs Manual, which is basically the core rulebook for the entire State Department.
Okay, so let's pull all these different threads together. We've seen the constitutional justification, we've seen the new mandate, the enforcement power, and the massive systemic reforms. So when you put all of those pieces together, what's the bottom line? What's the ultimate impact of this order?
At the end of the day, when you boil it all down, the primary effect of this executive order becomes really clear. It's all about centralizing control over foreign policy. And it does that by making a direct link between your job security and your alignment with policy. And to make sure that happens, it gives the Secretary of State sweeping, discretionary power to enforce that alignment and to reshape the very institutions that carry it out.
So this all leaves us with one huge lingering question. The entire goal here is to create one voice for American foreign policy.
But what happens in a world where good diplomacy might actually need many voices, many different perspectives, insights, and yeah, even disagreements to find the best path forward? That's the real tension right at the heart of this new order.